Well, I suspect that this next presenter is going to encourage you. Tanner Hnidey is an economist from Alberta. He's also a speaker and an author. He's the editor of TannerHnidey.com, where he regularly comments on politics, religion, economics, and current events. Tanner's not affiliated with any political organization and not any other organization. He's independent. He's a dedicated Christian. He's also blessed to be recently married. One of his favorite verses is Psalms 99:1. The Lord is king. Let the nations tremble. He sits on his throne between the cherubim. Let the whole earth quake. Please welcome Tanner Hnidey.
Okay, well, thank you, all of you, so much for having me come and speak to you today. What a pleasure it is to be here. Before I begin, I would like to thank Brandon and his company as well for asking me to come and talk to you. And putting on this most excellent and encouraging event. I am so excited today to talk to you particularly, although I am an economist, not about economics, but rather about a faith and a hope and a happiness in this world that is so presently unfaithful and hopeless and helpless and broken. Now, in case you don't know who I am, as Benita mentioned, my name is Tanner Hnidey. I'm from Lloydminster. It's true, I'm recently married. My wife and her family, and my family are in the audience today too. Thank you for your words or your encouragement. It's been so wonderful. And lately, I've been traveling across the province. I've been traveling across the province almost the entire year, talking about a variety of economic issues and other current events that are happening in the country and around the world at various town halls and events. It's been such a great pleasure to be able to do so. And finally, I've written my latest book, Kingdom of Cain. The subtitle is Escape the Insanity of Progressivism. And I, in it, examine the level of insanity that our leaders exercise today, and that is evident all across the country. And I work my hardest in the book to try and provide a solution to that problem. And the book is available out in the foyer, if you like, for a shameless plug. But the solution which I provide in this book, at the end of the book, is the same solution that I'm going to be talking to you about today. So, as I travel across the province, as I travel across the whole province of Alberta, up north and down south and left, right, and everywhere else, you know, you have these town halls, you have these events, and they're wonderful. They're encouraging. We've been talking particularly about the pension plan recently, but also other topics as well. And after the event is over, it's my pleasure to be able to talk to the audience, right, individually. Once the event is over, you go back to your table and people can come up and do come up to you and ask you this or that or the other thing, and we have a nice discussion. We always do. But no matter what the discussion is, and no matter how the discussion starts, inevitably that discussion is steered towards politics. It always steers towards politics, probably because the events, although nonpartisan, are political in nature. And inevitably, if you talk to a man or a woman long enough, almost invariably, you will eventually listen to these people with honest hearts and with honest reasons as to why, talk about how we just have to wait until Poilievre's in power. Well, yeah, you can do the speaking for me. I don't need to even be up here, eh? Wait till Poilievre's in power. Or we just have to wait until Trump once again reclaims the presidency. Or we just have to wait until our purposeful leader right? The next leader, the challenger, ascends to the throne, and then everything will be made right. Yeah, everything will be made better. Once the leader, which as it so happens always aligns with our political views, ascends to his or her rightful position in power, then everything, all of our political tribulations, all of our trials will be cured. All of it will be over. And I hear this sentiment a lot. I don't just hear it at the events that I attend. I hear it at Coffee Row. All of those elder gentlemen, again, with honest hopes, speak all the time about how evil Justin Trudeau is, which is true. Speak about how evil the Liberal government is, which is true. But then they come to their conclusion which is we just have to wait until Poilievre arrives. Or we just have to wait until Bernier arrives. Or we just have to wait until a new provincial leader arrives, and so on and so on. And they repeat this process. They repeat this logic again and again and again. Now, you'll have to forgive my hesitancy to accept such a premise, but even though I'm not so old, I've heard that line of logic before. Right? This process is not a one-time process. This process is a repeating process. What I mean to say is, the typical situation around the country, and not just Canada, but most Western countries, looks like so. We have a political leader who is newly elected. And for the first year or 2 years, year and a half, whatever it might be, the common population is excited because change has come. New change, new leader, new direction. The country is going where it's supposed to go now, or the province is moving the way it's supposed to. Finally, fantastic. And then by about year 2, the situation has changed. As it turns out, our political leaders who have promised X, Y, and Z might not be achieving X, Y, and Z. They might not be doing everything that they said they were going to do. They might not be accomplishing absolutely everything that they promised to accomplish. And so those same individuals who put their faith in that particular leader change, they transform, and they say, well, we have to look to the next one. There's a new challenger coming, and once that challenger is in positions of power, then everything will be made right. And then they do that again. So the new challenger comes to a position of power, he's elected or she's elected, it looks pretty good for a year or two, and then the cycle continues, it repeats. We need a new leader. We need a new leader. And so men and women put their hope and faith in political leaders year after year for about 60 years, and then when the reaper comes, right, when their eyes grow dim and their hearts grow weak, they discover they have no hope at all. No leaders coming to save them. All of the politicians, all of those who for years campaigned on all of these promises to fix the country, save the nation, don't have much of a salvation. They don't provide much of a salvation. They can't give much hope. There is no hope in such a case at all. And remember, this is not just true for our leaders. This is true for all leaders, right? You look at Jason Kenney, right? Look at Rachel Notley's campaign. When her dominion over Alberta ceased, right? Jason Kenney was the next big thing. He was going to rescue this province. He was going to turn us in the right direction. He said all the right things, or so we thought. He promised all of these excellent promises, or so the population thought, to rid Alberta of the rat of socialism. And he promised all of this fantastic enterprise. Oh, Alberta's going to be powerful and strong once again. And all we realized, it didn't take anyone long to realize at all, was failure. Total failure. Okay, so we put our faith in the next leader, and the process repeats. I said the same thing with Trump. It's true. Donald Trump was in power for 4 years, and the economics of that nation were superior to what they are right now. It's true. But men weren't saved from death. Men didn't have any hope. And then, of course, Joe Biden was put into power. And now, once again, men are looking at Trump. Come save us, Trump. We're waiting for Trump. Everyone wants the President Trump. But then they're going to discover, should Trump assume the presidency, that his reign only lasts 4 years. Look at Trudeau. Here's Justin Trudeau. Oh, I promise, he says, to save you from Stephen Harper's years of financial mismanagement and disasters. Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways. The budgets balance themselves. And now here we are, 10 years later, and even those liberals, I suspect there are none of them among us today, but even those liberals who voted for Trudeau can't deny the fact that we have a housing crisis, we have an inflation crisis, inflation is roaring, nobody can afford to live in this country. The situation in Canada is desperate, and it's dangerous, and it's devastating, and no one is better off now than they were 10 years ago. No one. So all of this promise of salvation from individuals in positions of power is futile. And you know, you can even take that logic further, right? Look at Ralph Klein. So Klein was a leader that Albertans loved, or that Albertans loved. The whole province loved him. And to Mr. Klein's credit, the economic reforms he instituted, right, controversial and spirited as they were good reforms. And they led to Alberta becoming the most powerful and prosperous province in the nation, no doubt about it, especially per capita. But even someone like Mr. Klein is gone. Ralph's gone. Yeah, Ralph ruled this province for a while, but he's not here anymore. So even if you put your faith in a political leader who does what's more righteous than other political leaders, eventually all of those leaders die. They're gone. You can't put your hope and faith in them forever. None of our political or politicians or political operatives are saviors. Why are they not saviors? Well, the reason is simple. They are not the way, they are not the truth, and they are not the life. So you can probably guess where I'm going with this. I have brought my Bible. Governments hate this book. I brought my Bible, and in one of its most famous verses, yes, one of its most famous chapters for that matter, we get that statement. I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Now, I have heard many political leaders say the most outrageous statements, right? I have heard many political leaders promise the most unpromisable things. They've said the most radical and ridiculous promises. And yet never once have I heard, not even Trudeau, not even Singh, not even Poilievre, not even Harris, none of them have ever said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. That statement is reserved for one man. It's reserved for one carpenter. It's reserved for one man from Nazareth. And he's either, because the statement is so audacious, as Lewis said, a liar, a lunatic, or Lord. So here you have a man, not just a man, but the man. Yeah, the last Adam, the final Adam. Here you have a man who makes this statement. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. And it's a peculiar statement to begin with, let alone coming from a tradesman in this humble little town in the Middle East. And so if you make such a bold and audacious statement, if you make such a claim, you have to back it up. If you're going to say something like that, which if any of us said it would be totally insane, you have to prove that it's true. And so how does such an individual named Jesus Christ prove all that he said to be true? Let's take his first statement. Let's examine his first statement. I am the way. Now, none of our politicians explicitly say they are the way, but they act like it. You have all of these leaders who work their hardest to bring every individual to their political rallies. Come to my events. Come to my rallies. Come listen to me speak. And then I want you to sign up for my website, or sign up to be a volunteer, or sign up to do this, that, and the other thing, and march with me as I move to a position of power. March with me right to Ottawa, or right to Edmonton, or right to the presidency, to Washington, wherever it might be. You follow me, they say. You follow me. And to their credit, many men do. Many men and women follow these political leaders tooth and nail. They follow them absolutely. And they legitimize or defend anything their chosen leader does. Even if it's unjust, they'll defend it on the grounds of, oh, he or she is playing politics. Or, oh, he or she has to compromise here or there to try and actually get to a position of power. And so it is, these people, they follow these leaders all the days of their life. And you can, if you wish, follow someone, let's say like Mr. Trump or whoever, a president, a prime minister, a king, or a queen. You can follow them right to office. And you can follow them when they're in office. You can listen to every political debate they present. You can listen to every policy they pass. You can follow them as long as you want. If you even wish, you can follow them once they've retired or been removed from their position in power. You can follow them all the days of their life, but if you do so, you will discover those politicians, like everyone else, has a final destination, and it's the grave. If you wish to follow your political leaders and follow them as closely as so many others do, you can do so. Fine, so be it, but they will lead you straight to the tombstone. That's their final destination. The Hebrews say it's appointed unto man once to die, and after this, the judgment. So you may, if you wish, follow them, but they will lead you right to the grave. So it's impossible that our politicians should call themselves the way. Again, I guess you can do so, but it means the destination is death. That's not much of a hope. If no matter what we do in this life, everything leads to death, so be it. What of it? The grave is our final destination anyway. It's not much of a hope at all. So then you take a man named Jesus, who claims to be the way. And like our leaders, you can follow him if you wish. What does John 6:35-40 say? Follow me. Look at the Acts. Follow me. Believe in me. Follow me. I've come to rip apart families that at least one of them might follow me, as offensive as it might be. Follow me, says Christ, follow me. And people do. Look at his disciples. They did follow Jesus. They followed him all his ministry. They deserted him on one day. They deserted him at the cross, it's true, because it was prophesied. But other than that, they followed him. And like our leaders, they even followed him right to the grave, didn't they? They followed him to the grave and said, where is our hope? So there they are on Sunday, and it's important to note it was the women first who did so, not the men. You know, here we have individuals who claim Christianity is so sexist, when in fact the entirety of this relationship with the Lord Jesus depends firstly on the testimony of two women. Nevertheless, here you have these disciples going to the grave, going to see their dead king, their dead ruler, the dead one they follow, and what do they find? They find an angel. They find an angel sitting there saying, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Why have you come to this place of death? Why on earth have you come here? You know the scriptures, you know what Jesus taught. What are you doing here? You see, the disciples went to the grave expecting to find a tomb of bones, and instead, they found a rolled away stone. You see the difference? You have our political leaders who lead us to death. They lead us to death. They lead us to the grave. You follow Christ, you find he leads you beyond it. He doesn't just lead you to the tomb. He leads you past the tomb. He leads you away from the tomb. He leads you not to death, but to life. So Christ is the way. What about the statement, I am the truth? It might surprise you to know our political leaders aren't the truth. And I dare say they don't even claim to be entirely honest. We're coming to a point, and it's been here for a while, to be honest, where our leaders take pleasure in their lies. And they take pleasure in deceiving those who buy into the lies. So you have this statement, I am the truth, equally as audacious as the claim, I am the way. Our leaders can't be the truth. All they do is lie. Yeah, our leaders can't be the truth. All they do is tell what's false. They violate the commandment day after day after day. And to understand fully how that is, we have to understand very quickly what truth is. What is the truth? Now, truth is a man. Truth is a person. But truth is a description of reality, of the world around us, as it is. That's the truth. If I speak about the world around me as it actually is, then I speak the truth. If I speak about reality around me as it actually is in existence, then I speak truthfully. If I say the sky is blue, I am telling the truth. That is the truth. If I say the grass is green in summer, that is the truth. If I say 2 + 2 is 4, an offensive statement today in school, that is the truth, because it's reality. And I am describing reality as it is. And so you see, you and I have to submit to reality. You and I, as those who partake in reality, must submit to it. And those who don't face devastating consequences. Think about a contractor, suppose, who's building a home, who has decided to disregard the reality of mathematics and lumber. And he builds his home whatever way he wishes. That home won't stand. That home crumbles. You put studs 48 inches apart on center, you're going to have a problem. You have to submit to truth. There is a reason there is no such thing as a postmodern building. Because if there were, there wouldn't be a building. No postmodernist is a postmodernist when it comes to medicine. No one says, well, the Advil tells me to take 2 capsules every 6 hours, so I'm going to take 16. No one says so rationally. No one's a postmodernist then. No, they believe in truth then. But when it comes to things that are so radical as gender or economics or sensible economics, all of a sudden, everybody can be a postmodernist. So that's what it is to speak truth. It's to talk about the world as it is, as it actually is. And our politicians aren't the truth because they don't speak about the world as it is. They lie. But what about Jesus? Once again, we return to Christ. How is this man from Nazareth going to prove that he is in fact the truth? If he makes such a statement, what is he going to do to prove that he is who he says he is? As it was with the first proof, that he is the way, the second proof is like it. In order to prove that he is in fact the truth, Christ has to be resurrected. You understand? You and I have to submit to truth. That's how we have to live. We have to submit to reality more accurately. That's how we have to live. But reality submits to Christ. If you want to call yourself the truth, you can't just speak about what's true. We can do that too, and that doesn't make us the truth. You can't just speak about what's real, or what's accurate, or what the world around you is like. All of us can do that, and none of us are the truth. No, you have to do something much more radical. You say, well, maybe I can manipulate reality. If I do that, then I could be the truth. I could make the world what I wanted it to be. But you can't do that either. Pharaoh's magicians did that. They manipulated the world around them. They used dark and sinister magic to change the world around them, and yet they weren't the truth, far from. No, you must do something that has never happened in the whole of history. You must do something so radical, so unbelievable, that even the darkest of powers have no ability to mimic what you're doing. When Stalin died, people stopped fearing him because he was dead, and they knew he wasn't being raised from the dead. When Churchill died, those men who hated Churchill didn't care about him much longer because Churchill wasn't being raised from the dead. And this is true for Alexander. This is true for Socrates. This is true for everyone. In the whole of history, great king or poor servant, once you die, you stay dead. So in a not a fun sense, but in a morbid sense, in an actual sense, even our politicians who lie all their lives eventually give testimony to the truth. Because the truth is that when you die, you stay dead. And our politicians, as much as they might say otherwise, when they die, they stay dead too. They can lie all their lives. Eventually, they will submit to the truth. That is the truth. When you die, you stay dead. That's why no one fears the conquerors of past ages in this modern age. What about Christ? The truth is, the way reality works is when you die, you stay dead. When Christ died, he was raised from the dead. Reality said, Jesus, you have to die, or now that you are dead, you will stay dead. And Christ said, no, I'm going to change reality. Reality obeys me, and so I am going to be raised from the dead, proving that I make the world as I decide. I do what I wish. I am not just speaking truthfully, he says, I am the truth. And the resurrection proves it. So now we have two statements that have been proven by his resurrection. Christ is the way. Christ is also the truth. What about the final one? I know I've used the word audacious a lot this speech. I'm going to do it again because this is the most audacious statement that Christ makes. I am the life. It's bold to say you are the way. It's bold to say you are the truth. But to say you are the life, that's something different entirely, in my opinion. All of them are unbelievably radical as far as mankind is concerned. To say you are the life is so bold a claim that I think Mr. Lewis is right. Either you are a liar, you are a lunatic, or you are Lord. There are three options, and only three options. Once again, I don't think it will surprise anyone in this audience to know that our politicians aren't the life. Because not only do they die and stay dead, but they actively pursue policies that lead to our death. Right, you heard Dr. Hodgkinson, and you've heard him over the last years, many years. The same with Dr. Makis. You've heard from economists, you've heard from pundits, you've heard from the government itself or the opposition. You've seen how our government actively pursues death and yet at the same time tells us they're working for our benefit. Yeah, right. You have in positions of power right now. We all have in positions of power right now. Active agents of abortion, of euthanasia, and of an attempt to even, what would be the word? An attempt to completely destroy a younger individual's future to have a family. So you have politicians in power right now who are actively involved in murdering babies. They are actively involved in murdering the elderly. And then they tell our young children, transition so that you'll never be able to have children. You see how they actively pursue death. Our leaders are pursuing the abolition of life, so they can't be the life. How could they be? They are the complete opposite of the life. They are death, that's true, but you can't call them the life. So then, if such a man as Christ would make so bold a statement as to say, I am the life, how do you prove it? You probably know where I'm going. You prove the first claim, I am the way by the resurrection. You prove the second claim, I am the truth by the resurrection. You prove the third claim, I am the life by the resurrection. Paradoxically, the only way to prove that you in fact are the life is to die. It's a wonderful paradox. Now, the actual crucifixion itself is a tragedy. It's a stain, it's the stain on the human species. You had Almighty God who literally took on our form, and we killed him. You prove the depravity of man, there it is. Your Creator comes to be like you. He is like you. You're made in his image, and our response to him is you're going to the cross. So here you have a man, Jesus Christ, who willingly, and the scriptures, particularly in John, are clear, it is willingly, gives up his life to die. Because he has to. In part because he has to prove that he is the life. How do you prove you are the life? It's not enough to live. All of us are living. It's not even enough to live a long time. Methuselah lived a long time. So did Adam, almost 1,000 years each. And yet neither of them were the life either. They too died eventually. So it's not enough for Christ to just live. It's not enough for him to live a long time. Even if he were still living today, and he is living. But what I mean to say is, if he were still alive from his first coming, and he hadn't died, and now he's 2,200 years old, atheists and doubters would still say, well, he'll die eventually. So that isn't enough. It isn't even enough to procreate or to create new life. Because as parents, you too create children. You too create new life. So that isn't sufficient either. No, you have to do something far more radical. To prove you are the life, you have to die. You have to die. Why? You have to die to prove that you have a supremacy over death. You have to die to prove that even if you are shackled in the grave, there is nothing by which the grave can hold you, so that you might rise up from it and show that you are alive once and forevermore. You might describe it as this. Here you and I are sinners. Here you and I are who manifest that sin with our actions, which we hate, those bad actions. We lie, we cheat, we do all of those things we despise. And when that happens, it's almost as if these hooks protrude from our bodies. It's almost as if you have these sinful hooks that protrude, so that when we die, the chains of death, and they are called chains, the chains of death have something to latch onto. They hold onto those hooks and they keep us underground so that no one can be risen up from the dead. They stay there. All of the emperors, no matter how great, stay there. All of the conquerors, no matter how much territory they acquired, stay there. Alexander died at what, 30? And he stays in the grave. But when Jesus died and death readied its chains, there were the chains of death ready to grab onto his hooks. They tried to sling themselves around him, and they found there were no hooks. There was no sin. There was nothing by which death could hold Christ by. He had no hooks by which it could latch itself onto. And so the only thing left for Christ to do was be raised from the dead, proving his supremacy over death itself. So you see, his statement, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life, is proven wholly, entirely by the resurrection. Christ calls it the first fruits, or not Christ, Paul calls it the first fruits. Here you have a man who was not just reanimated. Jesus was not just reanimated. He wasn't just brought back for a few more years. No, he was raised once eternally, as Romans says, through the glory of the Father. He has died once, and so he will never die again. You have in Jesus a man that no other politician can claim to be. You have all of these kings and queens who were brought up in royalty, and they eat with silver spoons, and they command great armies, great empires. Billions and billions of dollars are theirs, and that's just what we know of, let alone what's underneath in catacombs and so on. You have all of these mighty victors, all of these great, powerful leaders, Nebuchadnezzar, Antiochus, Darius the Great, Cyrus the Great, all of these emperors who people bowed and worshiped, and they put their faith in them, just as so many of us do today with our political leaders. And yet at the end of all things, they found that those leaders were neither the truth, they weren't the way, and they certainly weren't the life. And so those men and women tragically died hopeless. They put all their faith in men and women who themselves were faithless. And it led to their destruction. And so it is that now I come to the conclusion of this message. I started this speech with a reflection on faith and hope. That's how we began. And I said that men and women put all of their faith and all of their hope in our leaders, in these political leaders, only to discover, as I mentioned, that as our eyes grow dim and as our hearts grow weak, we have no hope. All our faith in those individuals is vain. And the reason this is so is because our politicians are not the way. They are not the truth. And they are most certainly not the life. And so the question is before us. If we can't put our faith in political leaders, which we can't, if we can't put our faith in our business leaders, which we can't, if we can't even put our faith in our mothers and our fathers, which we can't, who exactly are we going to put our faith in? In this world that's broken, in this world that's hopeless, who exactly are we going to put all of our hope, all of our faith, all of our trust in? You know the answer, and so do I. Paul says, who is going to rescue us from this body which is subject to death? Who is the ultimate man who's going to rescue us from this position, from this terrible disease and affliction of sin? This ultimate disease is sin. And of course, the answer is the author of life. The answer is the giver of life. The answer is the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus Christ. All of the Caesars have died. Yeah, Augustus or Augustus is dead. So is Hadrian. So is Tiberius. So is Nero. All of the Caesars have died. All of the Caesars have died, but Jesus Christ is alive. All of the kings and queens of past ages have died, but Christ is alive. And the demagogues, many demagogues today, even though they're not yet dead, they're dying. And yet my God not only survives, he thrives. He's sitting on the throne because the work is accomplished. The work is finished. He's not fighting these evil men anymore. He's already beaten them. He's already defeated sin. And so you must follow the Lord Jesus. You follow the Lord Jesus and you find that he leads you beyond the grave. You trust in him and you discover that he saves you from sin. You believe in him and you will inherit a resurrection, his resurrection, and eternal life. That is a hope. That's a peace. That's what that is. That is a promise that absolutely no politician can give or ever provide. For I know that because my Jesus Christ and your Jesus as well lives, this decaying and dying facade of a political salvation has died. Thank you.
To hear more from Tanner Hnidey, you can go to his website, TANNERHNIDEY.com.